York City, Black Monday. The market has just crashed. Looking out over the Hudson toward Manhattan, an unassuming investing genius, using a cell phone the size of a brick, aggressively places calls to different banks around the globe, building up an investing position that would net him $300 million in profit. This genius's name? Andy Krieger. Andy stands among the trading titans for breaking the Kiwi that day, betting against the New Zealand dollar, and paralyzing the entire country of New Zealand. He claims the only reason this trade became front-page news around the globe is because his name was leaked to the press. And tonight, for the first time in history, he'll talk about it on camera. Since then, over the past 33 years, Andy Krieger has maintained his anonymity, secretly dominating the markets, making better and even bigger trades, making billions. In fact, whenever a big trade happens in the world, many still wonder if Andy is behind it. His legend is so mysterious that he's even rumored to be Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin. Music has Mozart. Physics has Einstein. Trading has Andy Krieger. Tonight, for the first time, he's recruiting a small group of people, from novice to professional, to discover his trading secrets. And 7 of you watching right now will join him for free. Why now? He says his next big trade is right around the corner. A Black Swan event is about to take place. This Black Swan event will create massive winners and losers. And right now, you can decide for yourself which one you'll be, because he'll give you the details on a trade you can leverage to make 30 times your money on, using a new strategy. Welcome to the Big Trade Event with Fernando Cruz and trading legend Andy Krieger.
All right, and 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Big Trade Event. Now, the secrets you'll discover right now could make you an absolute fortune. Imagine making big trade after big trade after big trade and leveraging your money to potentially multiply your position over 30x, 30 times. Turning every $1,000 into $30,000, turning every $10,000 into $300,000 or even more, with defined and limited downside. That's the strategy you'll discover tonight from an absolute trading legend. Now, right off stage, over here to my right, we have Andy Krieger. Now, you'd never guess it when you meet him, but he's been called the most aggressive trader in history. And that's a quote, by the way. His fellow trader, billionaire hedge fund manager, Paul Tudor Jones, says, and you can see it up here on the screen, if you've ever wondered what it's like to trade billions, nobody knows better than Krieger. Now, Andy stands out among the trading titans for breaking the Kiwi. And that was when he made a big bet that the New Zealand dollar would crash. Now, that trade generated a $300 million profit. That one trade. And he says that's not his best or even most profitable trade. And tonight, he's going to reveal some secrets that, frankly, you aren't supposed to know about making money in the markets. Now, these are closely held secrets by the greatest traders of all time. People like Andy who have traded fortunes and made billions. His personal story is rather unusual. You see, he was born with a gift, and you'll see that for yourself as the interview goes on. He started picking stocks at the age of 4. And after a Wharton MBA, he had a storied career at the CBOE, Salomon Brothers, Bankers Trust. And for a short time, he was brought in to be George Soros's successor at his quantum fund, managing positions in excess of $1 billion. Folks, that's billion with a B dollars. But he had a change of heart. He questioned why he needed so much money. So he mysteriously left and has been trading his own account successfully from around the globe for decades. Now, whenever a big trade happens in the world, many professionals to this very day wonder if Andy is behind it. And more importantly, they want to know, what's Andy Krieger thinking? That's because Andy claims he's been up the majority of his career. Now, fellow traders like Bruce Kovner, Ray Dalio, Bill Lipschitz, Paul Tudor Jones, George Soros, Stanley Druckenmiller, even Nassim Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, and many, many more, they've all met with him and spoken with him to share ideas and insights. However, unlike them, Andy has shunned the limelight. Until tonight, that is. So why is he finally breaking his silence? Well, he's issuing a warning because he sees a black swan type event coming soon. It's a major global market event that will take place in the coming months. He calls it the biggest money-making opportunity of his lifetime. This event will create massive winners and, of course, losers as well. And tonight, you can decide for yourself which one you'll be. Now, the good news is that you could leverage your money to make up to 30x your investment trading his event, or turning every $1,000 into $30,000, all with a big trade recommendation he'll give you the details on tonight on this very stage. It's a trade so big that we're calling tonight's event the big trade event. So please sit back, relax, clear your mind, because I'm about to invite Andy Krieger to the big stage. But before I do, there are 3 things that you will see tonight. First, you'll get to know Andy. You'll learn his trading philosophy and discover how he became a legend as one of the most aggressive traders in history, despite his extreme aversiveness to risk. He's perfected what every professional trader dreams of: setting up defined, limited downside trades, then using his profit to leverage up to make these huge 30x trades. Now, it's a simple 2-step approach he'll show you today, so you can start using it as soon as tomorrow. Second, he'll show you the secret behind some of his biggest trades. Now, this is something he calls compression. And if you take a quick look at the charts here behind me, you'll see this compression pattern highlighted here in these triangles, okay? Andy calls this confluence of compression across multiple assets unprecedented. They are all pointing to the same big event, a big trade you can use leverage to potentially make 30 times from. Now, that turns $1,000 into $30,000, $10,000 into $300,000, and it's right around the corner. He'll even reveal the real true story behind his $300 million Kiwi trade. It's a shocking story, really, and he's never talked about it before on camera, so you're absolutely going to want to be available for that. But this trade, despite him never having spoken about it, was front page news around the world. He even received death threats and had to hire his own security team. And finally, third, Andy will reveal the details of this Black Swan event that you must be prepared for. Now, it could be a melt up or it could be a crash. And he'll give you the details on a once in a lifetime trade, a big, big trade that you could follow to build incredible wealth with when it triggers. Finally, as those of you who have been following this story know, Andy has entered a new phase in his life when he wants to pass his secrets on, and a small group of 7 lucky viewers tonight will have the opportunity to learn alongside him. Folks, you have the opportunity to learn from one of the top 3 traders of all time. This is $1 million apprenticeship. It's what we've been calling it around here. So you want to stay on for your chance. Now, to be clear, he cannot offer personalized investment advice. So this apprenticeship is unlike any other because you'll receive Andy's latest research and trade recommendations. Now, the only way to get in is to get the details before they are all taken. We'll get to that a little bit later tonight. So with that, folks, please join me in welcoming Andy Krieger to the stage. Here's Andy.
Fernando.
How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good, good.
Nice to see you.
Come on in, have a seat. All right. Andy, it's just so fantastic to have you here.
Well, thanks, Fernando. That was quite the introduction. And I really like this wall you have here. I have some big screens in my trading room, but I might have to pick up one of these tomorrow. You can really see the matrix. You can really see the patterns up here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Andy, we held nothing back for you. Now, speaking of the wall, I do have something else to show you. Richard or Eve, can we get some of those quotes up on the screen? Now, these are just some of the quotes that we uncovered about you. And I'm just going to come and read some of these off here. This one was probably one of the more shocking ones that I read was, Mr. Krieger is a big swinging d***. He sold short more than the entire money supply of New Zealand. In a sense, he took on his entire industry and won. Then you have this one here. Andy made seemingly inconceivable profits. This one was always very interesting to me, especially because as I've gotten to know you, this one seemed to be sort of at odds with the person that I know. And it says, Andy is one of the most aggressive traders in the world. And tonight we're going to get a little bit into that. This one here. Andy is a trading immortal. I love that one. Andy is one of the best options traders of all times. And let's go ahead and flip to the next page here. This one, of course, we already went over, but Paul Tudor Jones. If you've ever wondered what it's like to trade $1 billion, nobody knows better than Andy Krieger. And I'll say that I think probably my favorite one is this one here at the bottom. Andy Krieger could be Satoshi Nakamoto. And of course, Satoshi Nakamoto is the inventor of Bitcoin. So folks, here is your $300 million man, Andy Krieger. Now, Andy, I know your time is valuable and we only have you for a little while tonight. So I'd like to dive right into it and start this off with a story that you shared with me because it's very clear to me that you have a gift. You were born with this gift. You know, you started making your first stock recommendations. Was it at the age of 3 or 4 that you told me? I don't
right,
recall.
yes. I was almost 4.
Almost 4?
Yeah.
And how'd you do it? What was the process like?
Well, look, I love 2 things. I love statistics for baseball, and I loved looked at the numbers from all the Wall Street stock prices.
Okay.
So I used to lay out all the newspaper articles on the floor, and I would look at all the stock prices, and I'd watch these over a number of days, and then I'd start comparing the prices, and I'd pick the stocks to buy. And
Pretty good. We didn't have video games back then. Otherwise,
we didn't have video games, so this was one of the ways I amused myself. And I have fond memories of sitting with my dad, and he was reading the paper, and I was telling him, "Hey, you should buy this stock or buy that stock." And
I know it was a long time ago, but what was your track record from those newspaper picking
well,
days?
from what I remember, some of the stocks did quite well, but I don't remember getting any of the profits in my allowance. So yeah, I had this unusual ability to visualize mathematical patterns and formations.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, if you can imagine a bunch of boxes that represent an asset's price, and I can visualize the money flowing from one box to the other, and so on. I can visualize and picture all the relationships these boxes have had over time, and which ones go up in value, which ones go down in value, how they're correlated or not. And it's sort of a three-dimensional, multi-dimensional thing. And I can also tell you, for example, how the asset's price history from memory. It sort of sticks in there. So I don't know, kids these days, maybe they call it seeing the matrix or something. For me, it's just the way I see things.
It's just how you're wired. So when did you start putting this gift to use in actually making money? I mean, obviously your dad didn't give you your share of the profits, rightfully so, by the way. I have kids myself, so I could understand the not giving you the profits in your allowance. But when did you actually start making money with it?
When I first went to college, I had zero interest in making money, and my studies were University of Pennsylvania in philosophy and Oriental studies, and I studied languages: Sanskrit, Bengali, Hebrew, Arabic, and French, and German, and so on.
¿Hablas español?
Sí, también yo puedo hablar español. Sí.
Pero está muy bien tu español.
Sí, puedo entender todo, pero mi acento es terrible. So, as you can see, I speak Spanish and every other language with a terrible American accent.
I don't know, that sounded pretty good.
So, but in the same way, so languages for me and math are very similar. I could see the relationships between things, and it allowed me to learn things pretty quickly.
So truly, you were on track to be an academic.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to be a professor of philosophy and Oriental religions and things, and then I had a young family, and I got persuaded by one of my advisors to go for an MBA at Wharton. And I wrote a mathematical model for pricing currency options, and I got an internship doing trading at JP Morgan, and I put that research to use, and I guess the rest is history. Yeah. But yeah, I would have loved to have taught. I would have loved to have been an academic. Sure. But hey, it wasn't so bad. I got to live around the world and had a lot of flexibility living as a trader.
I love how you say, I was persuaded to get an MBA at Wharton. It's like, I was persuaded to go down to the grocery store. That's fantastic how you put it that way. Now, when did you finally start taking profits as a trader?
Well, okay, so initially I made some money actually it was in graduate school. I would stand around in the hallways at the payphone, and I grabbed the payphone and I started buying and selling shares in Coleco.
Oh wow! You mean the gaming, the ColecoVision?
Yeah,
gaming?
but at the time they had announced this Cabbage Patch doll, and people were. It was like this crazy frenzy. They were buying these stupid dolls, and the stock was going up. And I said, "This is ridiculous." But I would stand there in the hallways, buying and selling shares in this company through my broker.
That's fantastic. And how was it when you started taking profits now as a professional?
Well, I started trading on the Chicago Board Options Exchange in stock options, and then I moved on. I finished my MBA, and then I went on to Salomon Brothers.
Got it.
In Chicago, it was quite comical because, of course, my job was to go get people the coffee, and I was getting jabbed with pencils on the floor, and a lot of screaming and shouting, and it was all quite amusing. In Salomon, it was a bit more civilized, but still a little bit of a rough place. Sure. I remember my first boss at Salomon was a great guy. And he said, welcome aboard. We're sure you're going to do a great job here, and we know you have a young family, so you relax and take it easy. But if you lose any money, we're going to blow you right out of here. And I was like, it's not very comforting. Right. And there was a motto, do it in size and be right. So, the world was different then. It was, we say Neanderthals. It was more primitive. Yeah. We didn't have the computers in the same way we did. We had. it was voice activated, phone activated, screaming and shouting and jabbing in the pits. It was not like today.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't picture you in the pits yelling like that, right?
Well, I found it absolutely hysterical.
Yeah.
And I played professional tennis on the European tour for a while, so I still play every day. So I had this competitive streak, and I could fit in there. But I realized quickly that yelling wasn't enough. You really had to have a system and approach that made money over time.
Yeah.
And
So those guys are yelling their heads off, but clearly
eventually they go. In fact, they refer to them to have the airport trade. And the guys who were losing their money, they would put on a big trade and run to the airport, and then they wait to see if the market closed their way or not. If it closed their way, they go back and they continue their job. If it goes against them, they get in the plane, they leave.
Yeah.
And so
the airport trade, that's a good one.
But it's important really to have the ability to visualize things, to see all sides of the trade.
Yeah.
And that was something for me was natural. It was easy.
Yeah. And you've seen a lot of changes since then, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. When we started, we had the squawk boxes shouting out the prices, and then we had little speakers, with the brokers calling out the prices, and then it was just streams of data flowing, which was prices all day long, all night long, and later on we got a little bit more civilized. We had dedicated computer terminals, right. But again, for me, it was just watching the prices all day.
Yeah.
And I didn't use charts. For me, it was just watching the prices, watching the screens, and developing some kind of strange, harmonic relationship with the prices. And I started getting a real feel for when the pressure was building one way or the other.
That's interesting. Now, you have a very unique way of seeing the market. Is that, would you describe it that way?
Neurologists might say that maybe my brain's wired a little differently, but I developed this intuitive feel for the market. I could sense patterns. I could sense what was coming.
Where you obviously quickly gained this reputation as one of the most aggressive traders working at the time.
Well, I felt that was maybe before some well-known trades, that was a bit of a misconception because for me, I always viewed my risk-taking as manageable, defined, tolerable risks.
Yeah.
Yes, there was risk, but it wasn't so aggressive. It was well thought out before,
right?
And there was a lot of upside relative to the risk, and we can talk about that. But at Solomon, I did well. I traded with my trading partner there was Bill Lipschitz, and we made a lot of money together, and we were a great team. We had some tremendous trades together, and for me, it was a great education.
Yeah. And after that, after trading at Solomon, where'd you go?
Right, I was recruited by bankers to run a currency option business on a global basis, and I worked there for about a year and a half.
Yeah. And this was the place where your Wall Street legend sort of became public. We did some research on you, and what I found interesting was the year you got to Bankers Trust, their foreign currency profit that year was, or before you got there, was roughly in the neighborhood of $50–60 million. Then you join Bankers Trust, and they make $512 million the year that you're there. That's roughly 10 times more profit. And then when you left, that same part of the business of the bank there made about $153 million a year after you left. It's also interesting because when you resigned, the Wall Street Journal actually wrote about it, which, by the way, I know we're getting the graphic up on the screen, but I want to point out how absolutely unique it is that someone quits their job and then there's a front page 6-column spread written about the resignation. I think it's one of the most peculiar facts about you. But I love what the Wall Street Journal wrote here, which was Mr. Krieger's resignation jarred the markets. Trading came close to stopping for a couple of hours. In fact, the currency options market did halt trading for 2 hours. I don't know that any market has almost ever shut down because of a single person before or even since, frankly.
Well, it must have just been quiet, quiet in the markets that day.
Yeah.
But you know, look, I did well-known Kiwi traded bankers, and like I had other trades that I thought were better trades. I had other trades that were certainly larger trades. Those trades were not leaked to the press. They remained more confidential.
That was interesting. I have to ask also, you had to hire security around this time, right?
That's right. After the Kiwi trade, there were some very unhappy people on the other side of the trade, and I received some very explicit threats. So I had to hire a security team, and then everything got straightened out. But I did never visit the country. I haven't been there yet, and I wanted to go to New Zealand. I spoke to the Prime Minister there a few years ago, and I said, you know, is it safe to visit? And he said, yes, of course. You'll be safe as a housemate. Come on down.
Safe as a house. That's
Yeah.
an interesting term. Now, you even worked for George Soros as well.
That's right. And like George was absolutely brilliant, great investor. Personality was, I wasn't mature enough to handle his personality, which was a bit challenging.
Yeah.
And I finally said, look, do I really need so much money? Do I really need, frankly, this for me was a challenge of aggravation, because
Sure.
I just didn't know how to handle things. I was too young and too immature.
Yeah.
So I went out on my own, and I've been on my own since. It's been quite successful since then.
Now, it wasn't long after you left that Soros used a similar strategy to the one you used to sort of break the Kiwi, and of course his trade was the famous or infamous, I don't know how however you want to look at it, trade to break the Bank of England. That's very interesting to me, and you know, your legend has only grown since then. There's a classic investing book that your story is central to, which is called The Vandal's Crown: How Rebel Traders Overthrew the World's Central Banks. And I have to say, Andy, I'm sure a lot of viewers agree with me on this, but good for you. I mean, I think any time the central banks are sort of taken on, I think that's a good thing. Now, here's what they wrote about you here, which I thought was such a great quote inside the book. And it says, to this day, whenever otherwise inexplicable moves occurred in exchange rates, rumors circulate of another Krieger coup.
Well, I'm not tipping my hand.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Now, people have said crazy things about you, including the inventor of Bitcoin. Really? Are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yeah, come on. Next question.
Well, that's interesting though, Andy. How did this happen? Why do you think they chose you of all people to
Okay,
say?
well, I did coding and for modeling for various things in the currencies and currency options, and I did write about a one world currency in 1992, and my daughter is named Shoshi, and his name is Satoshi. So maybe that's how it all started.
Andy, I don't know. The plot thickens. I
Yeah.
think this interview is probably raising more questions.
But
all right. Well, while we could spend hours telling stories, which, by the way, just fascinating stories that every single time I sit down with you, Andy, it's just been truly amazing. We don't have a lot of time, and we have tens of thousands of viewers, literal stadium full of viewers here to learn your secrets, and they want to learn how to make these big trades as well. So they want to learn these secrets from you. So let's start with the goal of your two-step strategy. Now, the first step is defining and limiting your risk. That's step number one. And then step number two is leveraging your money to potentially make 30x, right? And what does that mean, right? It turns every dollar into $30. So $1,000 into $30,000. Then we'll move on to your idea of compression. And of course, this big trade that our viewers can have the chance to profit from. And then you can make your big announcement on the apprenticeship, including the names of the 7 lucky winners who will join you for free. Does that sound like a plan to you?
it sounds fine. We have a little clarification, but let's start with the two-step strategy.
Let's go. Let's have
And
it.
so let's have a little fun here. So now you and I are going to go on a journey.
Okay.
I want you to imagine you're a professional trader. It's your first day on the job.
I'm happy to be here. Let's call it the Krieger firm.
but I noticed that your watch is quite a bit nicer than the watch of any junior trader I've ever seen before. So I wear a swatch. For me, that's enough. But okay. But it's your first day on the job here at my firm, and you're new, and along with a bunch of other traders. And I'm going to put $25,000 into your account for trading. Now tell me, what's your goal?
Well, I mean, my gut reaction is I don't want to lose it, right? I don't want to be wrong, for sure. And I don't want to get fired on my first day working with Andy.
Okay, so you're fearful of losing money.
Yes.
That's normal.
Yeah.
I found most people are wired that way. But I'm a little worried about your psychology. You need to work on that because remember, you're not alone. You're in a competitive environment. You don't want to be average. You want to stand out in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. I could absolutely agree with that.
But you also need to outlast the market by following certain types of conventional wisdom. But only 3 of you are going to get a place sitting at my desk to do some trading. And so you need to make some substantial profits as well. So if you want to be a real trader, which I assume you do, I said, you're going to have to figure out how to do this. Otherwise, you're going to have to pack your bag and go back to the street.
Well, then I'd have to come up with a strategy like you're saying. So, okay, so low risk, but also it allows me to make some big trades so that I can do it, right? Do it in size and be right.
That's right. So it's something that all of the most successful traders, the biggest traders, they've all done this. They make their money on a few big trades every year. You don't hear about a lot of these trades. Very few reach the press. But if you want to be our top trader, that's the right kind of psychology to have.
Well, frankly, that's easy for you to say, Andy. So.
Well, fair enough. But I've helped traders from different sorts of backgrounds, all types of backgrounds, in fact, and from all over the world, and they've become successful. So I know you can do this as well.
All right. So I'm paying attention.
Okay. So I can only share so much. Now, this is a short interview. The apprentices will certainly learn a lot more, get the details, but let's simplify. So first of all, I do look for trends. I follow trends. There are 2 types of trends that you can focus on. You can have trends with a very short-term horizon, which is trading trends that last for sometimes hours or days or maybe some weeks. And then you have the bigger trends. The bigger trends tend to be driven more by major macroeconomic developments, fundamental political or economic things going on. And these things set in motion what we call the big trends.
Okay.
And we can discuss those shortly, how they work. But the goal here, we want to multiply your account, we want to grow your account. And as you know, I'm well known for trading the currency markets. I trade in many classes, though, in different asset classes, commodities, stock indices, all different sorts of futures. Yes, even Bitcoin. So what's unique about the currency market is that it's inherently unstable. It tends to have very strong trends. Trends, at least for me, are easy to feel, even if I'm a bit early on them. More importantly, you can make excellent returns, fantastic returns, with defined and limited downside on the initial investment.
Got it.
So, Fernando, if you're ready to learn how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know this is why most people are watching tonight also.
All right, so here's how it works. Again, we're trading a market with easy to identify trends. And we have these short and medium-term and long-term trends.
Got it.
And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off trading just the short-term trends. We're going to do this just to build up the account, to build up some of the capital in the account. And the goal over time is we want to double this account value with these short-term trades.
So the first step is I want to double my account value. Well, how do I do that?
Well, in a sense, it's basic math. It's easy. We have 2 things. We have to win more than we lose, or we can have winners that are bigger than our losers, or you can do both. We've done the analysis on my trading, and my short-term trades over the past year, for example, were profitable about 60% of the time. So I win more than I lose. Also, my winners are slightly bigger than my losers. So this is on the short-term trades, and it's a perfect combination.
Now there's more to it than that, right?
Yeah. Sure, you need to build your trading plan, you need to have your strategies in place, and we can't get into all the details of how to set up the trading plan, how to design your trading strategy, but that's something I will share with the apprentices over time. But you can easily have trades with a risk-reward ratio that's better than 2 to 1, and that means over time, you would have doubled the money on that one specific trade relative to the risk you took on it.
Got it.
But the key is we don't risk too much money on any one idea.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So now let's roll forward, let's flash forward a bit, and we're going to use this secret little trading plan. Let's assume you won more than you lost, or your winners are bigger than your losers, ideally both, okay? You did this with your short-term trades, and now over time we've built up our assets. So you've built up your profit cushion, and now it started at $25,000, now we built it up to an additional $25,000. And now we're ready to invest in some big ideas.
Well, due to the magic of TV, that was the easiest $25,000 I've ever made.
You did a great job trading there,
well,
Fernando.
Thank you.
And so now the other traders are taking notice, but you're getting a nice little bonus for your family. But more importantly, we now have a bigger cushion that we can use to invest some of that money into the big idea. So now we have to identify these big ideas, these fundamental structural changes, and these are called life-changing trades. And these are sort of the black swan events that we're going to be seeing soon. And there are many ways to do that, but one of the most powerful ways is to look for compression in the markets.
All right, so let's get to that. We've mentioned that a few times. What do you mean by compression?
Okay, compression typically happens before major historical changes in a market's direction. And it happens often after a very, very big move, and then the market starts to settle down and quiet down. And I brought a few charts, and let's put those charts up on the wall over here. Yeah. And the last one here is what we're seeing now. I'll get to this chart in just a minute. But from my experience, these compression trades work out more often than the short-term trades. In other words, I'd say my big long-term structural ideas work the majority of the time.
Right, but when you're right, the profits can be pretty monstrous, right?
They can be. Yeah. So the thing is, because we're using long option strategies, yes, you have to be right in the overall direction. You also have to be right in some sense of the magnitude as well as the timing. But if you can get the big picture right 80% of the time, and you're absolutely convinced the idea is going to work out, then you can go much bigger, and you're still going to be comfortable, but we're still going to define and limit our downside risk. So in this case, yes, you'll do it in size, and over time you'll be right.
Got it.
So Fernando, you now have $50,000 in your account. Let's say you're 80% certain this trade idea is going to work out. What are you going to do? Well, we're going to take 10% of those profits, or say $2,500, and we're going to go big with that. We can use some sort of leverage on that. And that's going to allow us to take a much bigger bet on a portion of we'll call it the market's money. It's money that we've taken from the market from our short-term trading.
So we've gone ahead, we've made some profits. In this case, in this hypothetical situation, we doubled, and so now I have this cushion in my account. And then I'm taking a portion of the profits, right? So now my initial capital is safe. I'm taking a portion of that. But you use the word leverage. Now, myself, and I'm sure lots of the viewers watching, right, you always sort of get the sense that leverage is just this dangerous thing that you want to avoid.
Now, to get rich, you need to give yourself permission to be aggressive under the right circumstances. All the great traders do this. Some of them we mentioned today, and I know this might go against your psychology, and that's okay. But look at it this way. You have profit sitting in your account. You must take some defined and some limited risk when you have a big cushion like that built up.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Andy. It makes perfect sense, absolutely.
That's right. You don't want to make 10% on an opportunity when you can use leverage and perhaps make 100%. A leverage, it might be the most powerful word in any language. You leverage your talent, you leverage your education, you leverage your connections. So why shouldn't you leverage your money as well, especially when you're playing with profits earned from your short-term trading? So now we're going to put your name up here on the big trading board at the firm, and we're going to leverage up. We're going to have the chance to make, 30 times. We'll certainly have a chance to make a multiple of these funds by leveraging some of these profits.
Listen, that sounds perfect to me. I mean, why make $1,000 on a trade when you can make $30,000 instead? So I know we may have a lot of professional traders watching tonight, but we also have a lot of regular folks who don't know how leverage works in the currency market. And quite honestly, I'm in that camp. I don't know how to use leverage in the currency markets?
Okay, well, leverage simply allows you to use your trading funds, your deposits, as a collateral to take a much bigger position than you could with the face value of that collateral.
Okay.
So let's say we take the $2,500 of your profits and we allocate those, and we're going to use 10-to-1 leverage on those. And what that really means is that you can now have a position of $25,000, even though you're only risking the $2,500 on that. You'll have a stop loss on it. If that position goes 10% your way, then you've just made $2,500, 10% of 25,000, or you made 100% on that extra little bit that you allocated.
The small portion,
The small
that
portion
defined
of,
risk.
The small portion of
Got it.
your profits that you're risking.
Now, you said 10-to-1. Of course, if you're trading with 100-to-1 leverage, what that means is, every 1% sort of that the position goes up, you're making 100%. If the position goes up 10%, well, you've made 1,000%. Is that? I know the math is probably fuzzier,
but there's some level where the leverage is going to be a function of where we think our stop loss should be, where we think the idea is wrong. But the idea is overall powerful. We need to use it selectively.
Yeah.
And that's how we can really grow this account more quickly.
Yeah, in researching for tonight's interview, I saw some online currency brokers that they go as high as 500-to-1 leverage. So again, a 1% move would hand you a 500% gain, right?
Right. So let's put that in numbers. It's easier for people to deal with numbers. So imagine you have $1,000 that you leverage 500 times, which is extremely aggressive.
That's huge.
It's not, but that would allow you to have a $500,000 position. If the market moves 10%, for example, and you catch the move with your leveraged position, you would make $50,000. So yeah, you can make those sorts of returns, but we're probably not going to 500 times. I think that's a bit aggressive.
Unless I won't miss that $1,000.
Right. So, but here at the way we like to trade is we're very conservative. We don't want to risk the initial principal, except to build up our cushion slowly and I say safely.
Yeah. Now, it's funny you say conservative when, again, we had some of those quotes up there, and one of them was, you're known as the most aggressive trader in history, but I totally get it, right? If I'm wrong on the trade, it won't faze me because I've sort of ahead of time defined that smaller risk. Is that right?
That's true, but again, so we have this, and this is where the psychology of trading is important. And I've seen it both ways, and with myself as well, where I hate losing initial principal. I hate the idea. I also find the idea of giving back profits very painful. And sometimes that's more painful than losing from the original. But so this is all part of the psychological challenge that we can address over time on how to be a successful trader. But you also have to accept that you're going to be wrong a lot. You will lose money.
Yeah.
And every trade, every investment has risk, no matter what you've been told. And it doesn't mean you're going to be successful tomorrow just because you've been successful in the past.
Right.
You have to have cushions. You have to be careful to never invest more than you're willing to lose on that idea. But on a big trade like the one we'll be talking about here, I don't go into that unless I have an 80 to 100% conviction. I have to be sure. And so the goal for any trader, whether it be the retail trader at home or a professional, sound money management is first and foremost the most important thing.
Yeah.
We have to strive to make money more often than we lose, and we have to make sure that our winners are bigger than our losers. And by the way, this is another psychological thing. Most people want to win so much that they tend to take their profits too soon, and they don't let their winners run it long enough. So that's another psychological thing we have to deal with.
That's what I love about this apprenticeship, right? Because you sort of get to dig into all these little nuggets that you're getting into, and again, it kind of reminded me of what that first boss of yours told you, which is do it in size and be right.
Right. So the market gives you these opportunities to multiply your portfolio over time. When we identify a long-term structural trading opportunity, the so-called big event where you have an 80% chance or more of being right, then you have to be able to be in a position to leverage up some of your smaller profits into making it a very, very big account.
Now, Andy, what I'm hearing here is that, you know, when I win big. So for example, let's say you know, if I made this 30x and I have the $47,500 in profit, right, safe in my account. The $2,500 that I invest times 30 is $75,000 in profit. So now I have a $125,000 account.
Right. Now, that's if you had leveraged it up that aggressively.
Right.
But let's say you've leveraged it not quite aggressive. You're still going to have an excellent return. Your account's still growing, and it can multiply. So yes, you would be up 5 times on your account. But the fact is that you're going to become a top trader as long as you're heading in that direction. So we want to repeat this cycle a few times. Yes, you're going to get plenty of these things wrong. And yeah, the goal is that you can do this and make successful returns over time.
And sort of trade from anywhere, like you did for so long. That would be the goal. That's the dream, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Now, more importantly, I would probably be up there on the board with Andy Krieger. Do you think that's possible?
Well, yeah, I think you can get there. I'll show you how. But right now, we need to have the right mindset to succeed, and I think you're in the right path. So anyway, congratulations, welcome aboard, and you get your trading desk, and let's give Fernando a hand here.
Well, if no one else does it, I'll do it for myself. I like that. Okay.
And then, of course, we'll fund your account with more money so you can get your name up in the, well, hopefully in the front page of the Journal one day.
I'm happy to be aboard, and I'm looking forward to making even more money together. Andy, I love the journey you took me on, but now it's my turn to have a little fun. Speaking of money, we have a little surprise for you. You're a master of visualization, but I'm guessing you've never seen this. Now, why don't we go ahead and let's get up. I want you to take a look at this wall that you like so much. I know you're probably shopping for it on Amazon or something, but we have a surprise for you. All right, you ready?
Okay.
Okay, let's check it out here. Okay, so what the team did was we put together and we did the calculations, and right up here next to the wall, actually, can you actually get a little closer to the wall there?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Now take a look at these pallets of money, all right? By the way, this is to scale. I just want you to know this is to scale. And this here represents the amount of profit that you generated on your big Kiwi trade, which was $300 million that this trade generated in profits. Now, that's Powerball money, right? As you're standing next to it, is pretty impressive.
So what currency and what denomination do we have here?
You know, that's interesting. So they're dollars, right? But I love that you actually asked that question, right? It just kind of shows how your brain works. So they're U.S. dollars, and the denomination is $100 bills.
Well, that's impressive. You're right. You know, I've seen numbers like this in my accounts, but I don't picture it as cash. Right. In the currency market, there are $10.6 billion trading every minute, and that's over 30 times what you see here. And it's $7 trillion a day during the market. It's just astonishing volumes. So even starting with a small account, you have fantastic opportunities to make big profits.
All right, so Andy, let's show how to get some of this money into the hands of our viewers here. Let's talk first about how to find these big trades where you could potentially make 30 times using leverage, of course, and using, of course, your idea of compression.
Okay, so let me simplify. There's only one thing you need to know about investing.
Okay.
That's the price. That's it. So remember when I started trading, I traded on streams of numbers. Prices in the newspaper with my dad, prices, you know, screamed in the trading pit at the SIBO, and so on. So prices announced over a squawk box at Solomon, prices flashing on a dedicated terminal at Bankers Trust. It's just prices. So today, okay, I use my phone. Drives my wife a little crazy, but she likes the results. So you can do this from anywhere in the world. You can enter a trade in 2 seconds. When it's time, you can take your profits almost immediately. I've spent years getting a feel for how these prices move. So the key is, if you get a feel and you have a sense, or if you have a system to know where the market's heading, which is what we're going to be talking about, then you can take advantage of this incredible opportunity. So the currency market, it's international, it's unregulated, it's massive. If you have some sort of edge in your trading, it's perfectly legal and it's perfectly acceptable. So I'm going to go into this more deeply with my apprentices, but are you following me?
Yeah, absolutely. You discovered what type of news and events and money flows actually cause the price to make a big move in one direction or another, like your Kiwi trade.
That's right. So we can talk about the Kiwi trade. It's a perfect example.
Yeah, I read a bit of this $300 million story. It feels like this is going to be a wild ride.
Okay. Well, now you get to hear my side of the story.
Okay. All right.
So this was after Black Monday, which was a so-called Black Swan event.
Sure.
When big long-term structural events like this happen, massive amounts of funds are going to shift. Billions and trillions of dollars are going to get reshuffled and moved around the world. A lot of money was flowing out of the dollar into a variety of currencies, including the Kiwi. The New Zealand Kiwi had been rallying for some period already, and everyone was looking for safe havens. And the Kiwi was, in my view, was tremendously overdone. The price had gone too far, too fast. There was too much optimism. And I felt confident that with 100% certainty, a bust was coming. I just wasn't sure when. And so I called a bunch of the banks that I did a lot of business with, and I said, hey, what do you think about the Kiwi here? And they said, well, hey, mate, it only has one way to go, and that's up. I said, oh, that's interesting. And then I called another banker, same thing, over and over. I got the same story, only one way to go.
Yeah.
And so finally I said, this is incredible. I said, this is the greatest bet ever. I said, how can you go wrong? It can only go one direction.
So you're egging them on now.
And now I'm convinced. So I didn't know this was a classic boom bust scenario. I thought it was going to break down. I didn't know how far and how fast.
Sure.
And what was interesting was I started selling the Kiwi. I started selling $50 million at a time. And I'm thinking, and I had plenty of profits, to support this. It wasn't like I was risking the bank's capital. But each time I would sell, the price would go up. I said, well, this is amazing. I said, the more I sell, the higher the price goes. I said, this is very strange.
Yeah.
And I said, there's something wrong here. And I was waiting for the first sign when there was a bit of weakness, a bit of vulnerability. And finally, I started sensing it. I sold some extra, and they stopped marking up. I said, okay, I think they're full. They can't take any more in now.
So they're trying to squeeze you out of your position.
They absolutely were squeezing it. In fact, they would even call me and say, oh, we hear about this crazy New Yorker and a terrible thing. He's short the currency and he's going to really suffer. And it was me. They wanted me to suffer.
That is so crazy, Andy.
So look, at the time there was certain levels of unprofessionalism among some of these banks, and the traders used to sit around in the pubs and they used to talk about the positions of some of their bigger customers, like myself. And I said, this is everything is just wrong with the way they were doing business. I said, but there's so much money flowing around the globe every minute. I said, the markets are too big to rig. I said, they can't rig this market. It's too big, it's open, and let's see what happens here. And the end result was, as I predicted, it was a bust. When the Kiwi started breaking down, I started really hitting it. And I started hitting it very, very aggressively. And then it started dropping down faster and faster as it broke through certain technical levels. And it dropped almost 5% in a very short period of time. And then it accelerated the decline.
Now, when you say encourage the market, did you actually move the market?
Well, look, there were times when I would go into a market with $4, $5, $6 billion in a position. And if it was the wrong way, the market wouldn't even move. It would just absorb it. And there were other times when I would give a little shove and it would just go tumbling. Well, in this case, I gave it a shove.
Well, Andy, you're definitely on an extremely short list of names. I think I can only think of two, really, off the top of my head, of people in history who's fought the central bank and beat them at their own game. Now, your name then leaks to the Australian press. Now, I love this. What they did, and I don't know if we have it up on the screen here. Yep, we absolutely do. What they did is they turned you into a cowboy, right? The Australian news said that you wage options blitzkrieg. And the Wall Street Journal wrote this about your firm that year. It says, last year, Andy's firm earned $592 million. That's more than twice what any other U.S. bank except Citicorp achieved, and nearly 1/3 more than Citicorp. Insiders say the bank liked the money Andy was making, but would have preferred the profit to come from a team rather than disproportionately from one highlighter. In 1987, while other motorists heading for Manhattan were contemplating the $3 toll, Mr. Krieger was pulling off trades on his cell phone. You know, the crazy thing is you've had bigger trades over the years. They just haven't been leaked to the press.
Yeah, that's right, Fernando. I said, but not only did I develop this intuitive feel for price action, it was basically by interacting with the market. It was sort of it was a circular process where I would do things and the market would react. So depending on the market's reaction, to news or to flows, I could tell how the market was likely to move. And I learned to identify situations where the price action told me one thing, and almost every insider was telling me something different. That doesn't happen that often. And that's when the big trades take place, and they only happen a few times a year.
And so you identified them using certain chart patterns?
Well, not quite. Too many people begin trading by looking at charts. In fact, I avoided this for my first 4 or 5 years, and I had the motto that every sunken ship had a chart room. It wasn't until later in my career that I studied technical analysis and chart patterns. It turned out to be a good thing. It was useful, made money with it. But by the time I came to study chart patterns, I already had this history of success. So I already knew intuitively which chart patterns would work and which ones didn't.
So is a pattern that works compression, for example?
Well, that's right. In a sense, price action and call it intuition are most important to me, but chart patterns are also indicators. They're simply different ways to look at price action over time. And I found a few chart patterns to be somewhat useful. Most are, frankly, completely useless. And I will share some of these findings with my apprentices. But the one thing in particular is this so-called compression pattern. It's very, very powerful. Okay. And I'm going to simplify it a bit. So we talk about compression. We're talking about how it ties in with black swan events, and we'll get to that.
All right, so compression tells you that something big is coming?
That's right. Unless there's been a dramatic shift in the whole global system, it's basically a harbinger of something that's coming.
Got it.
So if you look at this chart now up on the screen, this is the setup for a big trade where we can make a lot of money. So one of the easiest things to feel is compression. It can be mathematically verified. You can look at it just as the daily volatility, or you can look at the volatility over some weeks or months. And I'm sure that many people right now have the feeling that something's not right, something's off. And in a way, the strange thing is this lack of volatility is actually sending out warning signals. So the scariest chart isn't the one that's going up or the one that's going down. For me, it's the one that's compressing, the one that's building pressure. It's like the coiling of the spring, and you just can't coil it any tighter.
Right.
And that's telling us that some black swan type event is right around the corner.
Now, Andy, how can you predict a black swan event?
Well, I know Nassim has his, he's written about this successfully. He's been very successful in this whole area.
And for those who don't know, that he's the author, right, of the book, The Black Swan?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I worked on Wall Street at the same time as Nassim. We used to talk on the phone. Brilliant guy. But I've been pricing and trading options since 1984, and maybe I see things a little bit differently. Black swans are only an absolute surprise to the unprepared. I think they're typical events that other people just simply haven't figured out. They can be positive events, negative events, But we know there are going to be cycles of greed and fear, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So greed happens slowly, and then at the end it ramps up. You call it a boom, some call it a melt up. Fear spreads suddenly, overnight. I call it a bust. Some might call it a crash. So you just need to figure out where you are in the cycle to figure out how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
But when you see compression like this, it means we're going to see some gigantic movement. 1987, Black Monday, our trading group made a lot of money. We talked about that today. Throughout the financial crisis, when everyone was losing money, I was profitable on 81% of my trades. In 2007, my firm was up 300+% for our clients.
That's incredible. It almost feels like you have no weaknesses almost.
Oh, I have many. If you talk to my wife, you can hear many more. but I do tend to see things early, very early. And in a sense, that makes it difficult because by the time the market is finally sort of confirming my predictions, I'm tired from watching the trades and fighting with the market to finally go the way I was expecting.
Right.
And so starting too soon is, yes, it makes me profitable in a way, but it's hard to carry position sometimes.
So do you find yourself selling too soon? Do you
That's
think?
right. So I tend to get out too soon because I've been in so early, and it's not the easiest part of the trade.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily a terrible thing to take profits too early, right? But I think I would take that for sure any day of the week. So what else do you see? What do you see in this chart here?
Well, so again, the typical reaction for most people when they look at a quiet market, they go, "Oh, it's boring." In fact, I've spoken to many top people recently, top traders, and say, "Oh, it's boring. Currencies are boring." Well, in a way, they are boring. They're frustrating,
Sure.
but it's hardly boring. And so for me, these markets, which are inherently unstable, and they're really way beyond the power of any of the authorities, they have these gigantic trends.
Yeah.
Right now, this lack of volatility is, for me, the coiling of the spring. In a sense, we're almost squeezing the breath right out of it. But when it takes in this big inhalation and the shift starts to come, we're going to see gigantic money flows around the world. Gigantic. And I think we can prepare. We can have the opportunity to make lots of money from this, and it's going to be big.
Now, what is this chart of? What's this a chart of?
So this is the chart of a critical currency pair. It's a major currency relationship. One of my favorites. I've made a lot of money with this over the years. I have a good feel for it. I'm not going to go into which one it is right now. We'll discuss that, with your appendices later. But as I said, it shows the value of one currency versus another. It's really quite simple. But you can see, when this chart goes up, the value of currency A goes up relative to currency B. And you can see where it goes down. The value of currency A goes down relative to currency B. So, Fernando, do you see anything unusual here?
Well, I mean, I can see a lot of moves up and down over time, it looks like. And there's certainly a big trend up and then, a big trend down, another big trend up, and then there's yet another sort of big trend down.
Yeah, we'll call that's volatility.
Okay. And over here at the end, this is right now, correct? And
Yeah.
it seems to be moving sort of less and less. Like there's less
Right.
volatility.
So we'll call that a compression of volatility.
Okay.
In fact, this is the least amount of volatility ever recorded since the free float in the 1970s.
Oh, wow.
So this is, in a way, so the currency markets are these inherently trending markets. You can see that they have these gigantic moves down and up and down and up. And the bigger the distance between these peaks and valleys, the greater the volatility. But right now, the distance between the peaks and valleys is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's compressing. And these historic levels of low volatility are really, they're unprecedented. And this, at the same time, we have unprecedented volatility. We also have unprecedented worldwide debt. We have unprecedented negative interest rates in the world. We have unprecedented volumes of international trade and investment.
Right.
So there are things that don't seem to make sense. Well, why is everything sort of converging into this stability when you have everything else is new and in a sense unprecedented?
Interesting, interesting. Now, I talk to a lot of people, and many think that this is sort of the calm before the storm, what's happening right now. And frankly, they feel that what's happening right now is simply not normal.
It's not normal.
Yeah.
It's a little bit contrived and controlled. At some point it's going to blow, and when it does, we'll have major repercussions around the world in multiple markets. People will be talking about this event for decades to come. I've never seen anything quite like this. Now, if you follow this triangle from this currency pair all the way to the end, where the compression just can't get any tighter, well, it's not that far in the future where it finally just can't get any tighter.
So what's going to happen next then? I mean, which way is this chart going to go next then?
I have some preferences, some biases as to how it's going to break.
Can you tell us what those are? Or?
Well, I think that's the wrong question to ask. I think the real question is, well, let's put it differently.
Okay.
Let me tell you a story that I've seen play out hundreds and hundreds of times. I've seen so many perma bulls and many more perma bears, and they lose money.
Right.
Yeah, they can get rich during the right cycle, during melt-ups or booms. The perma bulls get rich, and during the crashes, the perma bears get rich.
Right.
And during the other times, they blame the black swan events.
Right,
They convince themselves it's not their fault. I said, so perma bears, yeah, they're great at sitting on the sidelines where other people get wealthy.
Right.
So as a trader, our job is not to have a bias. Our job is to trade the market. So yes, I have a bias, but my job really is to not necessarily have my bias, but to follow the flow of the market, trust the market. The market has an inherent wisdom. You listen to it, you'll make money.
So we could see a melt up or even a crash then.
That's right. Either is fine. Of course, there'll be different ramifications for society, but as traders, neither one will hurt us. We'll be able to trade either one, make lots of money from it. And yeah, I have thoughts on how this will play out. But no matter what happens, I have a plan already in place on how we can profit from it. And no, I'm not going to share that plan right now. But I will share that information privately with my apprentices and my clients over time. And they'll get trade alerts and so on.
All right, so to remind everyone, we're going to award 7 apprentices tonight for obviously charter memberships, Andy, to your new service, Andy Krieger's Big Trades. Now, we say that these are $1 million apprenticeships because of the value of getting trade alerts from someone with your incredible track record, Andy. Now, over the next year, these apprentices will be able to learn your secrets and receive your trade recommendations in their inbox. So they can have that chance, right, to make that 30x over time. So with that, let's have some fun. And why don't we welcome, Andy, your first 4 $1 million apprenticeship memberships, or members, really. So let's go ahead and put their names up on the screen. And Andy, why don't you just give them a nice welcome aboard?
Well, welcome aboard. I think we're going to have lots of fun together.
All right, so we're going to announce the final 3 winners in a moment, as well as, of course, another way anyone viewing right now can also join these 7 in your first ever research service. So you're going to walk these apprentices through this big trade recommendation. Is that correct?
Absolutely. People will be they'll be talking about this move, these developments in the markets for decades to come. And there is a big trade coming, Fernando. And I can say with 80% certainty, as we see more compression, 100% certainty that this compression cannot continue. It will break out. And if you look at these 2 trend lines, it's going to happen in the coming weeks and months. But there'll be plenty of other trades for us to build our account balances up before then.
Now, is this similar to your Kiwi trade?
No, I think this could be bigger. Really nothing like what I'm about to show you has ever happened before in world history. Can you bring up these other charts?
Okay.
Okay, what do you see here, Fernando?
Well, look, I'm not the brilliant chart pattern recognizer, but it's pretty clear that in every single one of these, the common theme, the common thread is compression.
Yeah, so I think, well, I think Neanderthal, a very basic person.
Thank you for
figured this out, and I think you've got it just perfectly down. So we're seeing the same sort of compression in 6 other critical currencies. Now, looking at that, you might want to ask yourself, well, does the market know something we don't? The type of compression we're seeing, it's not natural. I've studied currency charts going back to the 1700s. I've been a professional trader for over 30 years. I've never seen a trading opportunity this big. This may not happen again in my lifetime.
And so that brings us to your big announcement, Andy. You're inviting this small group of readers to join your first ever research service now, so they can learn how to trade like you do. Now, why now? I mean, it's been decades.
Well, despite my success, I've always had this dream to teach. As you know, I went to school to become an Ivy League philosophy professor, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, you could definitely say that for sure.
Yeah, look, I've had a good life. I believe in karma, but I think it's also time to give back.
Sure.
And recently, through my senior trader, Imre, I learned of the good work your research firm was doing for regular folks, and I thought this would be really a perfect opportunity to teach a small group of readers my secrets, how to analyze the markets, and how to hopefully make lots and lots of money with it.
Yeah.
And we'll email them some of the best trade ideas.
Okay.
And I think I have something else to offer that no one else does.
You know, Andy, I've been in this industry for a long time now, and there's never been anything like this available before, ever. You know, this is an opportunity to learn alongside a true legend in the trading space, for sure.
Yeah, and I also see a kind of urgency here with this compression. So I see this as an opportunity for me to impact more lives for the better than I ever could have affected during a whole career as a professor.
Yeah. And
so with that, I'd like to officially announce my apprenticeship. So can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. In just a moment, we'll open the doors for a short time to your new research service called Andy Krieger's Big Trades.
So our goal together will be to follow short-term trades, aiming for a 60% success rate. You know, we'll have the chance to win more than we lose, and I believe the winners, should be bigger than the losers.
Now, let me interrupt you for a second. The last time you shared your short-term ideas, you did this in Forbes. We uncovered some of these trades, and what was interesting is you had no losers. Now, again, I know the goal is to be right 60% of the time. I don't want to take away from that. But what I love about this is that during this time that you're writing there for Forbes, you had no losers. And we've got your Deutschmark and yen trade, and that was a 21% move. And then there's your US dollar to yen trade, a 16% move. The other pair that you did here was your Swiss franc to the dollar. That was another trade that had an 18% move. Your US dollar to Deutschmark trade, a 12% move. Continuing on, right? We have 2 US dollar to yen trades in a row. That's 17 and 18% moves. Then a euro to yen trade, a 12% move. Now I could just go on and on with this list here.
Well, a couple of things. First,
Okay.
I wouldn't call these short-term ideas. They were a bit more structural, more medium-term ideas.
Got it.
Secondly, you'll probably notice that this was over the course of some weeks or months, we had these moves, 15%, 17, and so on. So there were bigger opportunities then than we've had recently. But yes, I used to write, the foreign exchange section of Forbes, and I found that when I wrote the column, it actually helped me formulate my ideas. So a little bit of selfishness in there, because each time I'd write up an idea and I had to go through the analysis, I would end up putting on a trade and actually doing quite well with it. But the nice side benefit was every year I get these incredible Christmas gifts from different readers of Forbes. Just sort of random people were sending me, cases of wine or I also picked up some very nice trading accounts, so and some consulting engagement. So it was overall was fantastic relationship for me.
And as we learned earlier, Andy, with leverage, these moves turn out to be quite big, and we've got it up on the screen again. And there's 510%, actually two at 510%. There's a couple more at 540%. You've got 360%. Another 510%, 540%, 360%. So this is sort of taking those trades and then sort of adding in that leverage that we spoke about earlier today.
Well, yeah, the percentages are right, but I suggested that the readers, the clients, use options, long option strategies to play these moves.
Got it.
And the options have an inherent contingent leverage where you can control a lot of money at a certain strike price with a fixed, limited, predetermined downside risk. And that way you can be prepared for a big trade with limited downside. So you can be as aggressive as you want, up to the premium you want to spend on these ideas.
And then sort of leverage up, which turning, in these examples that we've been using tonight is, turning $1,000 into $30,000, or $1 million portfolio into $30 million. Now, look at this chart over here that we have. Oh, there we go.
Yes, look, it's a great chart, but let's be clear. We're not going to be making any gigantic big trade recommendations right out of the gate. Our goal is to build up the model portfolio first with some small trades.
Right.
We're going to run this like a business. The idea is we want to protect our assets with sound money management. Frankly, we get squeamish when we're down a point in our portfolio. If we're down 2%, we get really squeamish.
Right.
And we like to build up our profits, so we get aggressive with the market's money. We don't like to risk our own principal.
Sure.
And so we will go big once we have that cushion that allows us to make a big recommendation and potentially have some very, very big gains. Also, I have some other surprises planned for my members along the way.
Well, talk about surprises. I know we're running out of time here, but can you give us one example so people have some hint of what they'll learn?
Okay, so when this big event occurs, we'll see massive shifts in money flows into or out of smaller, less liquid currencies, like my Kiwi trade. So when this big event occurs, we'll see literally trillions of dollars get redistributed around the world. And some of this will go into some smaller currencies or leave the smaller currencies. And when that happens, we're going to have big, big opportunities, maybe in the lira, maybe in the Thai baht, maybe in the Singapore dollar, so on. But I'm not saying yet which one, but we're going to recommend them. And the smaller currencies can give you some extra opportunities for extra large returns.
Got it. Now, I know I'll absolutely be following your research. When we first started talking to you and Imre, I remember thinking it was just fascinating, especially because the currency market is such a massive, massive market. And what I found even more interesting was that you can get a currency account up and running in 10 minutes. You enter these trades, right on your phone, and just a few minutes there, and take your potential profits even faster. So frankly, it's just never been easier. Now, even crazier is you shared your recent track record, where you put on 28 positions and 25 were up. That's I'm no math genius, but that's slightly better than 60%.
Well, not all the days are like that, unfortunately. So, by the way, if it really takes you a couple minutes to do the trade, I think you need to practice a little bit.
Okay,
it shouldn't be that slow.
I gotta shave my trading down to seconds.
Yeah.
I got it.
So anyway, I do want to be clear that when we have these big trade recommendations, I'll also include a way to play it in a regular brokerage account, and most regular accounts allow you to trade currencies.
Okay.
So I'm going to share, these so-called secrets, and it's going to be with these small group of apprentices who are going to have a chance to hopefully make lots of money with me over time.
We've already named 4 of the apprentices, and who who would make an ideal apprentice to your service?
I've worked with a lot of successful people over the years, and if there's one thing they all have in common is a certain psychological trait. They all had this competitive voice inside telling them success was right around the corner. But other than that, they were all as unique as can be.
Now, Andy, having said that, not everyone will have the opportunity to join. You do have to limit the number of people who join the group because we want to make sure everyone has the chance to get the most out of it, especially for these smaller opportunities that we just mentioned. But you did agree to accept anyone who joins tonight, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I'd like to say to everyone who joins, I think we'll have a lot of fun. And from time to time, we'll have trade recommendations and everything from, stocks and bonds to options to commodity ETFs, to indices to Bitcoin. So there'll be lots of opportunities to make some money, and we'll be making these recommendations.
That's something that I've absolutely loved about you in terms of when we got to know each other is you absolutely love to have fun, and given the nice variety there of different things to be trading, it's certainly not a service to be missed because frankly there's something in there for absolutely everybody.
Right. So again, when we have the big trade recommendations, when this so-called black swan event starts to unfold, I will give recommendations and suggestions to my members on how to protect their retirement portfolios and profit from it using just a regular brokerage account.
Frankly, that right there is worth the price of admission alone. So if you're ready to master a skill that has handed some of the greatest living traders, including Andy, a lifetime of wealth, then we're ready to invite you in. But after midnight tonight, there are no assurances. I'm sure you agree with that, Andy.
Yeah, that's right. It's only fair because everyone watching right now took the time to be here. They're still here. So anyone still watching is here for a reason.
Andy, thank you so much. And I'm going to take some time here to talk to our viewers for a moment and officially open the doors to Andy Krieger's Big Trades. Now, let's start by opening the doors for the 3 free memberships we still have available. Let's go ahead and put their names up on the screen right now. Now, if your name is up here, congratulations. You are now among the first 7 members of Andy Krieger's Big Trades. Now, if your name isn't up there, I apologize. I'm sorry, but you won't miss out though. You can join them tonight as a paying member of Andy Krieger's Big Trades. When you see the price, you are going to be shocked, I promise. Now, here's how you should see this. Over the past hour, you've discovered the real secret to making money in the market. It's not a stock, it's not a chart pattern, it's not a strategy. The real secret is here with you tonight, a true mentor, Andy Krieger. And just like there's only one Mozart, one Einstein, there's only one Andy Krieger. And right this moment, you have an opportunity to invest in yourself and get a $1 million education for a fraction of the price by joining a small group of people who join Andy Krieger's Big Trades Research Service. If you have ambition, over the coming months, you'll discover all of Andy's secrets, and more importantly, you'll have the opportunity to learn how to get into some outstanding opportunities, including the biggest one of your life. As you learn tonight, this Black Swan event must create massive winners, but also losers. And right now, you can decide which one you'll be. You have a choice. You can sit on the sidelines without a plan, or you could have the chance to make 30 times trading this event in a market with $5.3 billion available or trading really every single minute, turning every $1,000 into $30,000. Now, the good news is that while this $1 million apprenticeship could hand you millions over time, it won't cost you $1 million. Now, most professional trading education goes for more than $50,000, and those are never done by a living legend who has made billions in profits and who is also ready to share his best investing ideas with you.